Welcome back everyone. As we enter the second half of eSummit 6.0, we bring to you Genesis, the core conversation that fuels ideas, sparks reflection, and brings clarity to the entrepreneurial journey. They say that entrepreneurship is about turning imagination into impact, and today, Genesis represents that very transformation. I, Hanishi Parekh, along with Anushka, I'm extremely delighted to welcome you all to Genesis.
Genesis is the flagship dialogue of the summit. It is where raw experiences meet refined perspectives, where lived stories speak louder than theories, and where the journey of building becomes as important as the destination. Whether you're a founder, a dreamer, or someone just curious about the evolving startup ecosystem, Genesis promises meaningful insights that will stay with you long after the summit ends. Now, let's introduce our esteemed guests for Genesis. It is my honor to introduce our distinguished guest, Mr. Nikhil MP. A technology strategist and engineering leader who is instrumental in shaping Gen Robotics' excellence in manufacturing and product scalability. Mr. Nikhil began his impressive career with the Tata Group, where he contributed significantly to core innovation and engineering initiatives before expanding his expertise into the dynamic field of robotics and high-performance material systems. At Gen Robotics, a company dedicated to delivering human-centric robotic solutions, Mr. Nikhil has been a driving force. He is responsible for building the robust production and quality frameworks that directly enabled the successful nationwide rollout of the Bandicoot robot across over 120 cities. Furthermore, he plays a key leadership role in the engineering and production strategy for the innovative G-Gator medical robotics platform. Recognized by Forbes Asia 30 Under 30, Mr. Nikhil uniquely blends deep technical insights with sharp business execution, directly driving Gen Robotics' mission to create positive impact across critical sectors like sanitation, healthcare, and industry. We're truly privileged to host you here today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Nikhil MP.
It is my privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker for Genesis, Mr. Raj Vikram Gupta. The co-founder of Base Life, one of India's fastest growing consumer nutrition brands. Mr. Raj is building a mission-led brand aimed at making clean, family-friendly nutrition accessible to every Indian household. His journey spans meaningful roles across leading homegrown companies such as M Caffeine, Mama Earth, and Dr. Morton, where he owned his expertise in brand building, product strategy, and e-commerce excellence. At Beast Life, he has pioneered innovations designed specifically for the Indian lifestyles, including the much-discussed roti protein mix, which blends nutrition seamlessly into our daily meals. Beyond product vision, Mr. Raj stands out for his authenticity, his direct engagement with the customers, and his commitment to building a brand rooted in trust. We are extremely honored to host him here with us today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Raj Gupta.
I now invite Dr. Pankaj Gupta, Faculty Anchor of the Center of Entrepreneurship, and Dr. Ravi Shankar Komu, Student Affairs Chair, to come forward and felicitate our esteemed speakers. The topic for today's discussion is beyond the buzzwords, the realities of building a startup in India. I would like to invite our esteemed investor, Mr. Manpreet Singh and Mr. Manish Verma, to join the stage and participate in the panel discussion alongside our distinguished founders.
Do we start? Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I think this is the toughest task to speak just after lunch. Tough for the speaker and tough for us to keep you guys awake. I think we'll try and do full justice to that. We'll try and keep you guys awake, even if the lights are dim. So, I think before I start, big round of applause to the entire management of IIM Amritsar, especially the organizing committee. I mean, it's very, very impressive the kind of work which you guys have been doing. I think kudos to each one of you. Some names I remember: Sridhar, Kirtana, Vidisha, Sanskar, Gautam, Alisha, Bhavna. I'm sorry if I forgot some names, but I think kudos to all of you for the kind of execution that you guys have done. I think a big round of applause, especially for the organizing committee. So the broad objective of today's session is to look at the Indian startup landscape and decode some of the myths that are going on in the market, and try and brainstorm and see what are those typical 1, 2, 3 points which we need to be careful about as a founder and as an investor, which will help create a very strong, self-sustainable business model. Okay. Before I move on, I think a quick deep dive into the Indian startup ecosystem. I'm sure most of you are aware, India now is officially the what's India's number in terms of global startup ecosystem? India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. If you look at the growth, last 5 years, from 50,000 startups to today, as of 24, there are 1.59 lakh officially DPIT registered startups, right? And imagine way back in 2016, there were hardly about 470 startups. So from 470 startups in 16 to about 1.59, 1.6 lakh startups as of 24, I think that's a big jump. Number one. If you look at the unicorns, right? I mean, globally there are about 1,300 unicorns, out of which 50% in the US, about 650, 170, 180 odd in China. India, as of March 25, there were about 170, 120 startups, unicorns. If you look at the global funding, last year itself there was a global funding of $250 billion. If you do your maths, 88k rate pay, I mean at the exchange rate of 88, this $250 billion accounts to about 22 lakh crore in INR. That's the kind of market we're looking at, 22 lakh crore INR global funding. Cut to India, last year the funding was around $14 billion, which is about 1.25, 1.26 lakh dollars funding in India. If you look at the job impact, since 2016, there are close to about 16.5 lakh jobs created in India thanks to startups. So that is the kind of scale that we're looking at from a startup perspective. Now I think let's come to the core topic why we are here. I think it's a very interesting topic that we have. I think whosoever thought of this topic, I think special word of appreciation for that, because there are a lot of buzzwords going on in the market. I think all four of us are from the startup ecosystem. On a daily basis we come across a lot of buzzwords. Pivoting, MVP, unicorn, product market fit, founder market fit, XYZ. But it's very important to look at what these jargons are, why are they important, and are they actually important? You know. So I think let me start with the questions. So my first question to you, Manpreet, I'll start off with you is, how would you describe the current situation in India in terms of what's your mood? Let's say you've been an investor, you've been working with this venture, you've been a very senior member at Cash-Free Payments. So you've seen both the sides. What do you think was the current mood? I mean, people are cautious, people are very optimistic, or does it matter?
I think that's a great question. So if you look at Indian startup system, which has been evolving since more than a decade, I think till COVID hit us, we were super optimistic, and fundraising was typically happening at a massive scale. Now, if we talk about current scenario, we are amidst calculated optimism. It's something which is very much measured at this point in time, because we were talking about blitzscaling, let's say for the first 8-10 years of the Indian startup ecosystem. Today we talk about not only hyper growth, but we talk about unit economics as well. Profitability, which was not talked, let's say 5 years, 10 years back, we have taken that journey from not talking about profitability to path to profitability, which was being talked during COVID times. And now people are actually talking about profitability. So that path to profitability has also diminished to a great extent. So at this point in time, we are at the cusp of very calculated and measured outcomes when it comes down to startups. We are seeing investors talking about exits from the day you start speaking to your respective startups. I think these are pedagogies which are increasing with time, and investors are very clear that, hey, if you're not making me money, I shall not be a part of it. So I think that exit path is becoming clear with every day passing by.
I think Bangkok, you went the nail. I totally agree with you. I think last 8 years, I entered the startup ecosystem after my corporate stint, I mean 8 years back. I see a lot of change. I think from valuation, growth at any cost, we are slightly moving towards profitability or path towards profitability. I think as a sequel to the question, I mean, my question to you, Nikhil, is what are the biggest shifts? I think you've been a hardcore founder, right? I mean, a hardcore technical founder, done your research, proven your credentials. So what are some of those shifts that you've seen in the Indian startup ecosystem last 3-5 years? How has the Indian startup ecosystem evolved? Are there any shifts, and what are those shifts?
Yeah, actually, we started in 2017. So before COVID startups, So the change I can analyze like last 3 to 5 years, like after COVID, there is a big change, like this thinking style of every founder is changed. So like from the valuation perspective, they are thinking like more value creation, like how to create a value, not to satisfy the investors or not to satisfy anybody. So they want to create some value in the society, or they want to solve the real problem in our country. So that's what I understand from last 3 to 5 years, or after COVID, I can say this kind of shift happens. So from the investor perspective also, the investors are really finding those people who have the capability to lead the team. They're investing in leadership, not in the product or not in this kind of what problem they are solving. So the shift is important. That is a healthy shift. So I support that it will redefine the ecosystem of startup in Indian next few years.
Thanks, Nikhil. I think again, moving along, I think my question to you, Raj, is you've been an old hand, you've done well for yourself, initially as a part of Pharma Earth, you're a known person from an e-commerce point of view, now you're running a very successful brand. I think congratulations for that. Yes, till about a few years back, we were running after growth at any cost. Whether from an investor perspective also, whether a company made profit or not, it didn't matter. Okay, cut to today, still for the last 3-4 years, I think there's a shift from valuation to value proposition. People have started talking about unit economics and a lot of other things. Talking about buzzwords, which are those important buzzwords which you think make sense today, and what's your take on that?
See, absolutely true, which you are saying कि पहले valuation का game चलता था, अब value का game चल रहा है, profitability का game चल रहा है. There are many buzzwords which is going on right now, which is AI driven in everything. I think मतलब we have seen startups आज ही उन्होंने present किया है, 3-4 तो थे AI वाले, ठीक है. So sometimes it's sensible, sometimes it's not also. सिर्फ वो कहने के लिए AI driven होता है, but वो AI में कुछ खास
Exactly
है नहीं. So I feel that
AI itself is a buzzword today, right? To quite an extent.
Yes, agree on that, because everything can't be done through AI. You have to go to the ground, do your stuff, you have to struggle a lot, then business gets built. AI अपने business नहीं बना पाएगा. ये मतलब especially हम सबको सीखना पड़ेगा कि just ChatGPT पे business नहीं बनेगा. मतलब you have to come to the ground, I will say. And as you said कि how it's difficult now versus before. It's getting difficult every day. The reason is, as you said by yourself, India is the third most startup. Sorry guys, weather. So, तो obviously मतलब जितने ज़्यादा लोग आ जाएंगे वो difficult होता चला जाएगा. Funding भी end of the day funding उतनी है जितनी लोगों को मिल रही है. Startup बढ़ते जाएंगे, so you have to be smarter now. तो पैसे उतने मिलने वाले, मतलब अगर 2 लाख करोड़ मिलने हैं तो 2 लाख करोड़ उतने लोगों को मिलने वाले हैं, ठीक है. वो 50,000 लोग थे, वो 1 लाख हो गए, तो अब कंपटीशन बढ़ गया. सो यू हैव टू बी मच एंड मोर स्मार्ट एंड यू हैव टू टॉक सेंस नाउ. आप सिर्फ और सिर्फ स्टोरी बना के पैसा नहीं उठा सकते एनी मोर. मतलब आई थिंक आप अग्री करोगे इस बात पे. नाउ यू हैव टू शो फ्यू नंबर्स. आपने सिर्फ स्टोरी सुनाई, उस पर पैसा मिल जाए, इट्स गेटिंग डिफिकल्ट नाउ. अगर स्टोरी बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छी है तो मे बी, मतलब टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, हमें भी स्टोरी सुना के पैसा मिला था, बट उतना पैसा नहीं मिला. क्योंकि मुझे वरुण ने बोला था भाई काम कर कि व्हेन आई सेड टू हिम कि आप थोड़े पैसे डाल दो, तब मैं मतलब आई विल बी कॉन्फिडेंट, आई विल बी मोर कॉन्फिडेंट. तो उसने बोला ठीक है पैसे चाहिए ना, एक काम कर. एट दैट टाइम आई वाज इन गोवा. उन्होंने बोला मेरे को आजा गुड़गांव और मेरे को पिच कर. सो आई पिच इट टू हिम एंड देन ही सेंड अ चेक. तो इतना आसान नहीं है कि आज के टाइम पे इतना इजीली पैसा मिल जाए, बट हाँ आज से 4 साल पहले इट वाज easy as compared to today.
I think you're bang on. What about the buzzwords? What do you think are some of the most commonly used buzzwords? You know, I mean,
honestly, मतलब ये AI driven, I think I feel, मतलब I get so many calls every day कि मैंने ये tool बना लिया है आपके लिए. So I think AI driven is one thing I feel. Another is how much money you raise. That is again a buzzword in a startup ecosystem. कि फंडिंग के बिना कुछ होगा नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है यार, फंडिंग के बिना बहुत कुछ हो जाता है। हमने बहुत कम फंड रेज किया है, वी आर जस्ट 14 करोड़ रुपीज़ अगर मैं बात करूँ तो वी आर एट 100 करोड़ ARR कंपनी। पैसे नहीं चाहिए होते हैं, थोड़ा सा पैशन चाहिए होता है, आई फील। पैसे ऑब्वियसली चाहिए होते हैं, इतने नहीं चाहिए होते कि विदाउट फंडिंग यू कांट स्टार्ट। मतलब ऑब्वियसली यू एज अ स्टूडेंट एंड मेरे से कल कुछ लोग पूछ भी रहे थे, तो आजकल लोग तो वो भी हैं, मतलब सोशल मीडिया पे एक आदमी इन्फ्लुएंसर बन के भी पैसे कमा रहे हैं, अपना ब्रांड चला रहे हैं। दे जस्ट पुट इट मनी लाइक 50,000, 50,000 का जुगाड़ तो कोई भी कर लेगा। तो आई थिंक फंडिंग इज नेसेसरी जहाँ पे आप ग्रोथ ला रहे हो उस टाइप की। लाइक मेनी ब्रांड्स आई फील विच पिच टुडे, उनमें से ऑब्वियसली कुछ लोगों को फंडिंग चाहिए आई फील, बट हाँ फंडिंग के बिना कुछ हो नहीं पाएगा ऐसा नहीं है, फंडिंग के बिना बहुत कुछ हो सकता है। यू हैव टू जस्ट फिगर इट आउट इन अ मैनर।
I think I totally agree with you, Raj, because I strongly feel funding is the biggest myth in the market. I mean, there's a strong misconception that funding is the name of the game. You launch a startup, a lot of people have come across, people launch startups just to get funding. You get funding, you become famous on social media, and I mean, you assume your credentials become stronger, but that is not the case. Funding is important, but not the only important thing. So, I think coming back to you, Nikhil, sorry, you want to say something?
I just want to add one piece. I think well articulated by Raj, but then I think one buzzword which has been there since quite some time now is deep tech.
Yeah, deep tech.
You build algorithms which have been there since eternity, and now since last, let's say 2, 3, 4 years, people have been talking about the same algorithms as deep tech, which is very misused at the moment. I think this is one piece which I keep on hearing on a very regular basis.
No, I think deep tech is a very strong way of going into the market. Like you had the .com wave. Similarly, it's a deep tech wave. A lot of people, just to get attraction, just to get noticed, they attach the word deep tech. So they try and involve, keep talking about deep tech, although deep tech has no relevance to their market. So as I rightly said, AI, deep tech, funding, I think these are very strong buzzwords which are important, but they are not that important from a customer's, from a business model perspective. I want to come back to you, Nikhil. You've been a founder, I think you've raised some funds, right? Has it ever happened that you went to a pitching event, not openly, I mean, an exclusive event, you approached the investors, you had something else in mind while pitching and the narrative would be changed. Investors totally, सब उल्टा कर दिया, this is not what you want. Has it ever happened? I mean, would you want to share your experience? During funding, what happened?
Yeah, not during funding. Actually, I can say one event. Like we had a commitment to the investment when we are pitching or we are presenting in front of them. Like this is our technology, and the market will adapt the technology very fast. Okay, so our technology is like robotics into the untapped area like sanitation. So nobody there to automate or think about something happening inside the manholes. People are entering for cleaning for their own waste. So this kind of thinking changed our career. So the problem came we given at the initial stage of our startup, I am saying within the 1 or 2 years of startup, we given the commitment to our investor like it will be adapted very fast. So if you go to the market and approach to the government, so the major sanitation ecosystem controlled by the government, so B2G. So we given a big kind of commitment like this is our market and we will be captured in 1 year. So what happened? The reality hit. Like it takes a lot of time to convince the people and convert them from the conventional technologies to a kind of technical background. So that takes too much time. So initially, as we combine to the investors or the stakeholders, it have a drastic change. Like they need kind of demos and they need a lot of convincing points. They need the experience in using robotics in other cities. So like it takes too much time, the initial stage. So before COVID, I can say. So after the COVID time, I mean within 3-4 years back, it's very easy to adapt because AI came and this kind of buzzwords are there like advanced tech and this kind of 10x growth is a unique make in India. This kind of buzzwords I can say. So we are also using the same patented unique product So I can say like people are more easy to adapt. So initially I can share my experience like what we committed and growth was very slow initially. Now the growth that depends on the ecosystem. So ecosystem is more matured in our Indian culture. So people are adapting the robotics and technology very fast than before. 5 years back. So this is I can share from my experience.
I think very valid point. I think I want to come back to you, Raj. In today's world, I think it becomes very important to build a rock solid team, right? I think during lunch, we were just having a chat with the students. So I was just sharing my perspective as to if there is a train with 10 compartments, then there is an engine. Engine is the growth driver, right? Engine may you have the driver and his team, So for any organization, small, big or medium, whatsoever, okay, the most important part is the engine has to be strong. That means the team has to be strong. Given today's scenario, where there is so much of uncertainty, it's a roller coaster ride for all startups, where people are apprehensive whether to launch a startup or not, whether to join a startup or not. Given that scenario and given your background wherein you worked with some high-profile, successful companies like Unicommerce, Mama Earth, and you're building your own startup which is doing pretty well. What's your take on this? How do you build a rock-solid team which can perform as per your expectations and you can show them some ray of hope as to this startup will do well in the long run? So in other words, how do you build a strong team which will help you?
So I'll give you a brutal answer of it. Just a team build kariye. So I don't know it's the correct way or not, but I will say be honest with people. Be as honest. Brutally honest रहना पड़ेगा आपको.
Totally agree.
The reason is, see, things changed when थोड़ा सा मैं आगे जाता हूँ कि आज के टाइम पे I'm imagining कि उतने पैकेजेस नहीं मिल पा रहे जो 4-5 साल पहले मिल रहे थे. What's the reason? The reason is what a employee is providing you end of the day. मतलब अगर वो उस तरह से काम कर रहा है, expectations fulfill कर रहा है, तो आप उसको उतना पैसा दोगे. Yesterday I was giving an example to someone. There is one guy in my team who joined me at a package of 12 lakh package CTC. He was a IITian, not actually IITian, NIT से वो. And it's been a 1.5 year for me to run the business, and last month he asked for, मतलब उसने एक बार पैकेज अपना बढ़वाया 25 लाख पे आया. Last month he said कि मेरे को 35 लाख पैकेज चाहिए. And I said कि ठीक है भाई ले ले. The reason is he is fulfilling those needs which I am looking for. ठीक है. So the only point, मैं उसका truthful था स्टार्टिंग से यार देख इतना काम करना पड़ेगा, इतनी रातें लगानी पड़ेंगी. Today only they are working. This is Sunday. Be truthful with the guys. जो अपने important team members हैं, obviously मतलब मेरी टीम में आज के टाइम पे 60 लोग हैं, तो 60 के 60 उतना काम नहीं करेंगे, बट वो 10 लोग इतने आपके होने चाहिए. अगर आपने बोला है कि आप रात के 12 बजे काम कर रहे हो तो रात के 12 बजे काम कर रहे हो, उनको खुद पता हो कि कब कहाँ काम है, उनकी कहाँ जरूरत है. So I always say this, I am not against work-life balance guys, but yes I feel कि अगर आपको लाइफ में क्या चाहिए उस पर डिपेंड करता है आपका काम. अगर you need a comfortable life, then ठीक है यार, फिर तो मतलब आप 10-15 लाख की नौकरी से कर सकते हो comfortable life, that's not a problem for you. Then आपको काम भी उस हिसाब से करना पड़ेगा. If you're looking for a luxury life, आपको चाहिए कि हाँ आपके घर बड़ा हो, घर पे नौकर हो, you have a good car and everything, then you have to do struggle guys. मतलब then आपको बहुत कुछ मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी, and that is something which have to be clear with your team, which I did and which someone did with me in my past also. The clear expectation was from my bosses in the past was like Raj यार ये ना कर देगा तो ये हो जाएगा. अगर तूने ये कर दिया, so I was managing a good business anywhere in my past, and I was having a great relationship with people also, and that is the reason Varun called me when he thought कि ठीक है यार तू आजा, तू इसके साथ लग के काम कर ले. Because and I said this in Shark Tank also, मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता मेरी इक्विटी कितनी है क्या है यार. When I was working for someone else also, I was working really hard. मतलब it was like ये मेरा खुद का business है. So I always say this to my team also. In a department, अब जैसे एक लड़की है, she did her graduation from Faridabad. उसका वो intern के आई थी. She is managing influencer marketing. I was like कि भाई तू influencer marketing team की CEO है. नाउ इट्स योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. तो आपको टीम वैसे बिल्ड करनी है. आई थिंक दैट इज द वे फॉर अ स्टार्टअप टू बिल्ड. आई थिंक जो बड़ी कंपनीज होती हैं वो डिफरेंट वे से बिल्ड करती हैं.
I'll just flip the question. We have approximately about 200 odd students sitting in front of us. I think they're studying in one of the most premium institutes in the country. Another 1 or 2 years down the line, they'll be out in the market. Two paths: corporate world, entrepreneurship. Within entrepreneurship, they want to become an entrepreneur. Within corporate world, they want to take up a job in the corporate sector or the startup industry. So you've been a hardcore startup operator, right, Rajasthan? So what are those 3 skill sets that you would want to see in your future hirings? Any student graduating from any of the IIMs, Amritsar or others. So what would you expect from these students if you were to hire one of them? What kind of skill sets, technical, soft skills would you want to see in them?
See, I think basics has to be clear कि थोड़ा बहुत आना चाहिए. Like you should be aware of कि presentable होने चाहिए. Research has to be strong. मतलब अगर कोई काम दिया research का तो that has to be strong. Excel has to be strong. These are basics. मतलब वो चाहे IIM से हो चाहे किसी basic college से वो सारी चीजें आनी चाहिए. I feel. Another is I think it's your intent. The only thing I feel I see in people is intent and how much you're proving in your 3 months journey in the company. True. It's basically यार मैं ना मतलब I always say this मैं सिखा लूँगा लोगों को. मतलब to be honest मतलब I can say this beast life में till मतलब लास्ट 4 महीने तक मेरे पास सीनियर लोग थे ही नहीं. मैंने इंटर्न्स हायर किए, इंटर्न्स को सिखाया, खुद उनके साथ लगा, लेट नाइट मतलब सब कुछ किया एंड दे हैव बिल्ड द टीम. मतलब दे हैव बिल्ड दिस बिजनेस. मतलब सी एंड ऑफ द डे अकेले बंदा बिजनेस नहीं बना सकता. आपको टीम चाहिए वो जो आपके लिए काम करेगी.
It's always a team. Agree.
So it was always a team. So it's basically intent की पर्सन के अंदर इंटेंट कितना है, मोटिवेशन कितना है, पैशन कितना है. अगर आपके अंदर वो है तो आप बना ले जाओगे. बेसिक्स तो यार सीख लेता है बंदा. मतलब वो इंटेंट होना चाहिए. दैट्स व्हाई.
I think rightly said. I'll come back to you, Manpreet. You've been part of the investment world for quite some time. You worked with Let's Venture. You work with a highly regulated sector, which is cash-free payments. Across industries, the government is coming down very heavily in terms of compliance and regulation. We've seen there are so many hazard examples, I won't take names here, where the companies have gone down in terms of compliance, whether founders have siphoned off funds or they bought their Ferraris and BMWs of the world, right? Or they bought Camellias, right? So, given that scenario, do you think there is a trade-off between compliance and innovation, or can both the things coexist? Because initially the thought process was, if you want to build up something new, you want to have innovation, you want to innovate, you might compromise in terms of compliance, right? But today's scenario is, government is very, very clear across your gaming industry, your fintech industry, your defense, your other industries. Compliance and regulations have become very, very important, right? So what's your take on that? How do you balance between innovation and the government regulations?
That's a great question. So I think innovation has been happening since ages. Be it any sector, any domain, you look at innovation across sectors. You talk about agriculture. I think we moved from a traditional agriculture economy to, let's say, an agri-tech economy. And climate tech is something which is not even being talked about, let's say, 5 years back or 10 years back. Now we're talking about that. Coming to what you said, let's say innovation and compliance. I think compliance is a mandate. You cannot build a company without being compliant. While I come from let's say, a regulated company, right, which was cash payments, and prior to that I was with Let's Venture. Both of them are equally compliant because here you're dealing with money. I think one thing which is very foremost is that hey, you don't have to be compliant after the government asks you to do so. You have to be compliant since day zero.
It has to be inherent. It's a value system.
Absolutely right. So you look at a lot of companies in the payment ecosystem as well who were not compliant early, and the repercussions of that were massive, right? And while you are non-compliant, also what happens is you might go back 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months, let's say, back because a lot of licenses get cancelled, and when you look at these regulated domains, licenses play a very, very critical role. So I think that's something which is a mandate. So possibly a couple of checks around that would help you build a more sustainable company. I think make sure you have a compliant leader since day zero, because while your records are compliant, that would help you go a long way. I think that's something which is a mandate. Work with the ecosystem. I think working along with the government ecosystem is something which is very critical, because you would then understand what's on the lines, let's say 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line, what the government is planning to do. I think that's something which is very, very critical. And I like to cite an example. I started my career with Tally post my MBA, and Bharat Goenka, who's the founder of Tally, was pretty much on the board while we were talking about, let's say, VAT getting introduced, and this was possibly a decade back, possibly more. So while VAT was getting introduced, he knew it 6 months prior to something which is getting introduced, right? And that helped him make sure that the product is in place and you are compliant since day zero when, let's say, government makes an announcement. So I think being inside the ecosystem is very, very critical, and that would lead, let's say, lead you to a long way. And one example of that we've seen in the gaming sector of lately. So you see a lot of gaming companies which have faced the beat because they were not compliant, and because of which, let's say, we've seen the repercussions and quite a few companies shutting down as well in the same domain.
I think very rightly said. I think compliance and regulation is something which is inherent. It comes from within. I don't need a police force to control me and tell me this is right? For example, if I am crossing the traffic lights, okay, although I know there are cameras all across the city, because of cameras, so there are two options. One is I know where are the cameras and I won't cross the lights. Wherever I know the cameras are not there, I have a tendency. So that's wrong. And in a startup perspective, any organization perspective, it always starts from the founder. It's always a top-down approach. So if the founder is not compliant, if his or her value system is not right, I think today or tomorrow or day after, I think there are bound to be some issues. Raj, I'll come back to you now. The Indian ecosystem, as I shared initially, is evolving pretty fast. There are multiple entities like incubators, accelerators, private incubators, private accelerators, government supported, government funded, which are trying to handhold the startup founders. Okay, my company also runs accelerators, and we've been working very closely with a lot of startup founders. Do you think these entities actually make sense? And is it important for a startup early stage or mid stage to get incubated in a startup, in an incubator or accelerator? Do you think these entities add any value, or is it just a fad or a...
So I think it depends basically on the founder, like उसके पास experience कितना है, as he worked in a past where he's working right now. So for me, I worked in the past in the companies like this. I worked with the founders directly. So I think मुझे वो जरूरत नहीं थी in the initial part. But yes.
But by and large, what's your take? I mean, you may not have found the need for it. But by and large, is it required?
Absolutely, it's needed because see, even right now for me, incubator में नहीं हो, but मेरे लिए वरुण है. I can call him anytime and take help from him, take suggestions from him. I have few other friends in the circle also. So for me, that is my incubation. That is my incubator basically. So it's helpful anytime. It's helpful on both ends. First of all, you're getting money from there. That is one thing. That is the most helpful piece to start. I can say. Another is obviously the decisions which you take. मतलब आप जैसे कोई decisions ले रहे हो, that can be wrong also. In that incubator center, वहाँ पे 4 seniors से आकर उन्होंने पहले decision लिया हुआ है, वो fail हो चुके हैं, तो they'll let you know कि ये मत करो. So I think you learn a lot from people's failure also. कुछ गलतियाँ करी है, तो वहाँ पे आपको काफी help मिल जाती है. So I think it's valid, it's important for someone who need it. And if someone is like having the circle basically, maybe he or she will not need it.
Okay, I think thanks for the answer. Nikhil, I'll come back to you. You've been a hardcore operator now, right? And you've been raising funds, you've been in touch with the investors last few years. Do you think the investor mentality has changed over the years? Have they been asking the right kind of questions, or have they started asking some tough questions? Right? I'm an investor, I've been an operator, so I have a different perspective. But you've been a startup founder, you've been hanging around with investors. trying to raise more money, more and more money. Do you think the type and the quality of questions have changed? Or is it, and these questions actually make sense? So what kind of questions are investors asking, and do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, so right ask actually. So we've been raised 3, 4, more than 5 rounds of investments in our startup life. So being an investor, the mindset is very different. They initially they want they trust in leadership. I told you before. So now they are asking how much unique economics you have, the unit economics, and the profitability. Of course, the profitability match. I mean, that is the major thing is like the profitability and the growth is very connected. So how much the founder vision is aligned with the growth, and he have a good direction. So that kind of questions are, usually the investors asking nowadays. How you are aligned with your vision, not like the technology or you are skilled or whatever. So as he told the founder and his direction is very important. So people are, investors are asking the questions like how much profitability you are making in next 1 year, next 2 years. So what is the exit strategy of the investor if we are coming in? So these kind of questions comes in different stages. So early stage in our seed round, it was like how confident you are making the product, how are confident you are solving the problem. That's the first initial questions. After that, in a series A or series B, that kind of round, the people are asking how much is your profitability, what is the investment in tech, and some investments are only for tech, some will be only for infrastructure. So these kind of questions will come from different kind of perspective. So the perspective has changed a lot because the investor mindset is like they want to see the startup in next to 5 years in this stage. So it should be aligned with their mindset. Like the founder is aligned with them, then they are really okay to invest. So in our investment, our company, the major investors, Anand Mahindra is our investor, and Zoho is our investor. So and Tally, some co-founders and investor. So the major investors are in our board. So the major thing is like our decision is very aligned, and we should be very focused on what we had and what decisions we are making. So the questions arising is very focused questions, like very keen questions, not like you are confident you are doing this kind of questions are not coming. Very kind of profitable in figures they are asking. This is very important. So how much you are going to make the revenue this year? What is your turnover? What is the problems? And they are legally bounding the founders. If you are not doing, your performance is less, then they are putting that in our SSHA, the shareholding agreement. So this kind of shift is there. I can see that from last 5 years.
I think Nikhil, you just kept the nerves pakadli. You hit the nail. You touched a very sensitive chord. You spoke about profitability and growth. And Manpreet, I want your take on this. I'll give an example. When I quit my banking career way back in 2017, I entered the startup industry. When I launched, I was a startup founder. I've been a startup founder twice before this. So when I launched my first startup, the general advice which I was getting is forget profitability, go for growth. Growth at any cost. Okay. Cut to today, aspects like unit economics, profitability, not at the cost of growth, not at the cost of profitability. Profit is more important. If you're not profitable today, what is the path towards profitability? How are you going to make money? So all of a sudden, now to last 3-4 years, investors have started talking about unit economics. Paisa kaise banao? How will you monetize? Is my investment safe? So you've been an investor as well as an operator both. Do you think there's a trade-off between?
I got the question. I think both things go hand in hand. You cannot have profitability without growth. And while you keep on doing growth, and if you're not talking about profitability, I think that's something which will not be an ideal scenario, right? So I think one fundamental piece for any founder is you have to make sure that you have the right milestones at the right time. while you are starting a respective company, you might think of growth at an early stage, but then you need to make your path very clear that hey, this is the time when I'm going to look at unit economics. This is how I diversify across multiple channels and I'm going to make money. There will be some channels which will be profitable. For example, if I'm a D2C brand, I might not make a lot of bottom line while I'm selling to those e-commerce marketplaces or quick commerce companies. But then this would provide me a lot of visibility. This would provide me a lot of top line. So I think those goals have to be very clear, very unidirectional, and that's what would help you go a very long way. I think make sure your focus and your target while you set out those milestones are very, very clear. And this will take you a very long way while you build a sustainable business.
I think totally agree, because if you go back 10 years back, very high focus on valuation. Reason for that is, all this money, most of the money was coming from US. The Fed rates very, very low. There was excess of liquidity. Investors were willing to take a fund. They would borrow money at a very low interest rate, divert this money to the Asian markets, India, China, Vietnam, and Indonesia and all. Gradually, once the Fed tightened the market, the liquidity became an issue. I think all that helped, and so I think all that is also a strong factor. By now there is so much of focus on profitability because investors have burned their fingers, right? Coming back to Raj, you are in the space where your target customers, I understand, are across India, across the market, whether it's a tier 1, 2, 3, doesn't make a difference. Okay? Last 2-3 years, there's a lot of action happening in tier 2, tier 3 markets. Since our company teaches also, we run a lot of entrepreneurship programs across tier 2, tier 3 markets, and I've honestly seen the students in tier 2, tier 3 markets are very, very ambitious. Kuch karna hai, but they don't know how to do it, right? Okay. So, from your startup perspective, do you think there is enough action happening in tier 2, 3 markets? And why is this shift happening? Because gone are the days, till about a few years back, it was startups means Delhi, Gurgaon, Bangalore, Bombay, Chennai, Hyderabad, maybe 1 or 2 more markets. But now, bulk of the startups, they are coming from tier 2 markets. I mean, Chandigarh alone, Mamaearth is a product of Chandigarh. A lot of other companies are also. So, what's your take on that? What's your perspective? How come all of a sudden there is so much of action happening in tier 2, tier 3 markets?
I think awareness is growing of entrepreneurship. I feel, अब लोगों को समझ में आ गया है कि doing a job for someone versus entrepreneurship is that can also be one thing in their life. That is one thing. And Shark Tank came, so वहाँ से भी काफी excitement आया लोगों को. मतलब मैं Shark Tank US काफी लेट देखना शुरू किया था, but अब तो बच्चे देख रहे हैं Shark Tank India.
True.
So he or she know कि हाँ ये वाला एक angle भी हो सकता है. Another thing is tier 2, tier 3 में it's obviously cost friendly approach as well. You get people at a lower cost with the same kind of a work as compared to Delhi, Gurgaon, Bangalore, Mumbai. I recently saw an ad on LinkedIn that by some company, I'm forgetting the name, Haldwani उनका office, and they were like वो ऐसे promote कर रहे थे कि why you are living at a 500 AQI versus come to us at a 50 AQI. ठीक है, so I feel that can also be one reason कि बहुत fast life है as compared to smaller
quality of life is much better in a smaller city. I totally agree.
So that is one of the reason also. It's just that I find an issue actually over there. The reason I worked in Goa also for 1.5 years. So talent का थोड़ा issue होता है. I feel tier 2, tier 3 में. The only issue is talent. There are many brands which started in a smaller city, but at some point of time 20-30 करोड़ ARR के बाद आपको दिल्ली आना पड़ता है because of a talent. मतलब I think मैं शायद 50-60-70 करोड़ की कंपनी बना लूँगा tier 3, tier 4 पे. But हाँ उसके बाद मुझे बनाने के लिए I think वहाँ पे आना पड़ेगा.
Yeah, I think I agree with Raj. I think at a big time, hiring entry-level talent in a tier 2, tier 3 city is possible, right? Because there's a lot of abundant talent when you look at early careers. But then when you look at someone matured for, let's say, a mid-level or a higher level role,
Specialized roles.
Yeah, that's why we see a lot of these, as I mentioned, a lot of these companies after a certain milestone with respect to revenue, they start moving on to a Bangalore or let's say a Bombay or let's say a Delhi. And that's something which is very relevant at this point in time.
I think we're bang on. I think we'll come to the last round. A quick rapid fire question for each one of you, right? Nikhil, your question is one myth about startups you would like to bust?
Okay. So, I don't know, it's a myth or something. So I can say like, if you have a customer and if you have a product, no need an investor. Investor will come automatically. So don't wait for investor first to start your business. Build your product, find your customer, investor will come.
I think very well said. Don't run after money. Build a solid product, money will flow. I think excellent answer. Money. One piece of advice which you would like to give to any startup founder. There are 200 of them sitting here. So any piece of advice to them as far as startup?
Is it only one?
Sorry?
Is it only one?
One most important.
I think hunger and persistence go hand in hand, and I think a combination of both makes you deadly. So if you make sure that hey, your hunger never dies while you keep on doing multiples, can be, let's say, revenue, can be a profitability, can be hiring people, and you make sure that hey, while you have your odd days around, you are still strong enough and confident enough to make sure that hey, those odd days will pass by and you'll still make a large company. Like these two pieces are very critical.
Very excellent. Raj, is there something which you wish you had known before you started on the entrepreneurial journey? Somebody had told you that aisa hota hai, something like that.
So I feel कुछ लोग बोलते थे काफी कूल है बीइंग अ फाउंडर. यार इतना कूल नहीं है, बहुत हॉट है.
It's a roller coaster ride.
It's a lonely roller coaster, मतलब all kind of journey in one, I will say. So I think ये था, this is something to say.
I think bang on. I totally agree with you. There's a lot of hype in the market. You become a startup founder. Your visiting card says founder and CEO. Your reputation in the market goes up. Everybody says, "Wow, bacha, wow, very good." It's not as rosy as it seems to be. It is not impossible, but initially it's a very, very tough. It's a long run affair. It's not overnight success. A lot of hard work, patience, persistence, resilience, everything is required. I think with that, we'll wind it up. Last takeaway, I think Indian startup ecosystem is evolving. There's a lot of scope. Government is acting in a very strong, positive way. They are supporting schemes. But a word of caution, don't run after funding. I'll give you a small example. I call it the ventilator. For example, if I'm in ICU, if I'm not well, I have a ventilator on my nose. So long the ventilator is operating, so long there is artificial oxygen coming, I am alive. Moment you take off the ventilator, I conk off. There are hazard examples where companies have depended on international, foreign, global funding. Moment the funding stopped, the companies, what happened to them. So do not run after funding. Focus on building a very rock solid business model. The rest everything will flow. I think, thank you everybody. Any more questions from the audience? I think there are a couple of questions or is it something?
On behalf of the Center of Entrepreneurship and the entire organizing team, we extend our heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished panelists for generously sharing their invaluable experiences, insightful perspectives, and candid reflections. Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion. I would now like to invite the COE coordinators, Kirtana and Sridhar, to the stage to lead an open dialogue with our esteemed guests. We strongly encourage the audience to actively participate in this discussion and make the most of the excellent learning opportunity.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I think we all can agree that panel discussion was really refreshing for us. So many honest and grounded insights we've got. So now we are going to just shift gears a little bit. So this next segment, the open dialogue, is where we go a little bit deeper. These are the kinds of questions young founders like us usually think about but don't always get a chance to ask. So Sridhar and I here drafted few such questions and explore with our guests. And we would love to open it up for the audience as well after the discussion. So to everyone here, future founders, investors, curious minds, so this is your space, feel free to jump in. With that, let's get started. So, let me start with something as students we all ask a lot. So, should someone start up early or first become financially stable and then build a startup? So, how did you personally decide this for yourself?
Is questions for everybody or
I think founders can give their perspectives as how they started, and you would have found so many founders as well, early stage founders, you can give their perspectives.
So, financial freedom is important, but it depends on the person ki uske kharche kitne hain, to be very honest. If he or she is a student, then obviously the spends will be lower, at a lower end. इतना नहीं है कि आप मैनेज नहीं कर सकते. बट yes, if you have a family, then obviously आपको अपनी फैमिली को देख के चलना है. You have your parents, if they are dependent on you. So it basically depends कि आपका अभी फैमिली में सिनेरियो क्या है. अगर आप अकेले हो, अकेले को खुद को मैनेज करना है, तो आई थिंक यू कैन स्टार्ट. थोड़ा स्ट्रगल है बट स्टार्ट कर सकते हो. बट yes, if you have dependency of people, then obviously first of all be financial free. Make them comfortable, then start.
So I can say, like, when we started, the problem was very important. So we don't have time to wait for the financial stability. So like, first address the problem and get rid of that problem initially. That's first focus we had. So like, after that only we thought about how to scale the business and all things. So our first problem, I told you, the manual scavenging is happening still in India. So if you wait for some financial stability or stable for our company or ourselves, people will die. Okay, so our major focus is to get the product launched into the market and refine it as early as possible. So at least we launch our product to help the people. So if your solution is, or our problem is addressing the society in a great manner, we think about only the solving the problem initially, then becomes stable financially. So that's what I can add on to this.
I think there's no right time when you want to do a startup. You can be a fresher and right after college you can build your own startup, or you might have 2, 3, 5 years of experience and then you can look at building a startup. I think the fundamentals remain the same, even if, let's say, you have a certain years of experience. I think what is more critical is that they build fast, fail fast, and learn fast. I think if you are able to take care of these fundamentals, you will go a long way. Also, an imperfect product is better than a delayed perfect product. I think we need to understand this, right? Because you have a competitive advantage if you're building fast and learning fast, right? If you look at Snapdeal, typically, they change their model 10 times before becoming an e-commerce marketplace. Right? So you need to be nimble enough to make sure that you are able to cater to the needs of the market and let's say be really fast.
Your input, sir?
See, I'll just give you my take on this. Get into the startup world as an entrepreneur if your basic expenses are being taken care of by somebody else. Because initial years, don't expect to make money. You know, there'll be more messages coming to your mobile saying your account has been debited by so and so amount. There'll be credit messages ज़्यादा नहीं होंगे. I think you will keep waiting for SMS saying that your account has been credited. It will be more of debit messages. So long your basic expenses have been taken care of by somebody else, I think get into it. But if there is no, I'm not saying you have to lead a luxurious life, but basic expenses. Number one. Number two, you need a basic emotional and little bit support from your family. If your family is not supporting, because initial years are going to be very, very tough. You know, emotionally it can be it can be a big turmoil. So emotional support is required and basic expenses. That's what.
Thank you, sir. That puts things into perspective.
Yeah, and that cushion piece, while let's say Raj also spoke about that cushion piece, financial cushion has to be like for 18 to 24 months. Yeah, I think that's the sweet spot which one should look at. If there's someone who can take care of those 18 to 24 months, or you have your own, let's say, bank balance helping you support that, I think that should be enough initially.
Thank you, sir.
Now moving on to the next question, sir. There's advice coming at founders from everywhere. Mentors, investors, Instagram reels. How can an early stage founder filter what to actually listen to?
So you're talking about the advice. Okay. So advice like just a perspective you are getting in your career, I mean your startup career. So advice is not the way or the direction you have to go in that direction only. Like that's not a comment or something. So you will get hundreds of advice. So you should be selective. What you want, it should be clear in your mind. So like if you are a founder and you should have a clarity on your dream and your vision. So the advice comes from different entities. That's only a perspective. So it will help you to reduce the costly mistakes. I can say like mistake will be in your life. We are going for entrepreneurship. So you can reduce the costly mistake, and the advice can help you to learn. Without advice you will be learning 5 years. With advice you will get learning in 6 months or 1 year. So this is what I understand. So we also get lot of advices. So we should be selective. So if 100 advices are coming, you only select 10. So or below that. It should be helped to grow and what aligned with your vision. That's my answer.
There is a saying, "Suno sabki karo."
I was about to say that.
So I think even for me, this is a real example. Varun I call Guru. So multiple times कुछ चीजें बोलते मैं नहीं करता हूँ because I feel कि शायद वो मेरे लिए अभी सही नहीं है. तो I think this is the best way. सुनो सबकी करो, अपने हिसाब से करो. Because you know better. The reason is तुम वहाँ पे हो और वो कर रहे हो. You are the one who is living that life. तो आपको बेटर पता है. As he said कि निखिल said कि 100 चीजें सुन रहे हो तो 10 चीजें करो या एक चीज करो. It depends on you and it's your timing कि कब कहाँ क्या सही करना चाहिए.
फ्री का क्या मार्केट में बहुत अवेलेबल है. So typically I think for an early stage founder, I think what's really important is that make sure there's a go-to person for you. That can be a mentor, that can be an investor, that can be a friend, that can be your parents, that can be anyone, that can be your alumni. So make sure while you have that one or two people in life, they are the ones who can advise you the right things and in the right possible way. So I was reading somewhere that an early stage founder, and typically a first-gen entrepreneur, in the first 12 months makes 85 mistakes every month. Right? And that's a fairly large number, right? So, and while you make these mistakes, you tend to go back while you look at growth. So, a good mentor would help you avoid these mistakes big time. I think that's something which one should look at. Make sure you have one go-to person always.
I think they've been covered. I think one important takeaway is learn to filter. I mean, there'll be hazard gyan coming from all over the world. Okay, but you should know who is the important person. I think he said it. Your go-to person can be your mentor, can be your advisor. So always have a chunk of maybe 2-3 mentors, guides. You look up to them. Okay, and learn to filter who is the right person for you. I think this is spoken about.
Thank you so much, sir. So, like we've discussed before, you mentioned about the emotional support as well. So, I'd like to ask, a lot of young founders usually romanticize entrepreneurship. So, but the emotional side hits hard once they start the startup. So, from your own journey, what's the one truth about entrepreneurship that nobody prepares you for before?
Can I start? Yes. I think uncertainty. As I said, it's a typical roller coaster ride at a Disney World. You don't know what's coming in front of you tomorrow. So be ready for uncertainty and be ready to bounce back. I think I equate entrepreneurship with sports. You know, there's no difference. Anything can happen tomorrow. be persistent, be resilient, have the patience. It's a long run. It's a lambi race ka ghoda. And you can't expect overnight success. So I think one takeaway is uncertainty. Be ready for that.
I think again I have multiple objectives to this. Primarily you can talk about loneliness because you have to build on your own and there will be a team who looks up to you for any solution which has to be made. Apart from that, very, very long working hours. I think work never stops. That's something which is also there. While you build, let's say, a product or a company, I think that's something which will be very consistent.
Can you repeat this?
So it's mostly the young founders who are getting into the startup world. They romanticize entrepreneurship, but once they go there, then the emotional side of it is hard. So what do you think that we need to be prepared for before entering the startup ecosystem?
लगने वाली है. If you're planning to start anything, be prepared. Life is going to be tough, very tough. For me, my last 1.5 years were really tough. मतलब I was the one जो बहुत काम करता था, जॉब करता था. मुझे लगता है उससे ज़्यादा क्या ही हो जाएगा. But now I feel 10x tough because ये मतलब आप सोच रहे हो, आप सो रहे हो, कुछ भी कर रहे हो, आपके दिमाग में तो वही चल रहा है ना. You are working 24/7. When it's your work, when you are doing something, आपकी लाइफ स्टेक पे है, आपका सब कुछ स्टेक पे है, आपकी रेपुटेशन स्टेक पे है. मतलब अब तो क्या हो गया ना, जैसे फैमिली मेम्बर्स है लाइक कि मम्मी को भी काफ़ी तारीफें मिलने लगी हैं, अरे आपका बेटा ये कर रहा है, तो यू नो कि अरे कहीं कुछ फेल हो गया तो क्या होगा. सो इट्स गोइंग टू बी टफ फॉर यू मेंटली, फिजिकली, हर तरीके से. सो आई थिंक बहुत कूल नहीं रह गया. मतलब रियल पिक्चर इज डिफरेंट, रोमांटिसाइज करना इज डिफरेंट, बट हाँ रियल पिक्चर इज टफ गाइस. टेक डिसीजन अकॉर्डिंगली, बट येस इट्स रिवॉर्डिंग ऑल्सो. Like we are sitting in front of you, so it's rewarding for us. तो वो शायद इतना कुछ एफर्ट डाल के हम लोग यहाँ पहुँच पाए, ठीक है. So it's rewarding, but yes, it's tough as well. So be prepared for it. That's all.
They already covered, but again I had one more thing is like preparation is important, but the clarity is very important than preparation. So nowadays the ecosystem is all well developed. You have the AI platforms and you have ChatGPT and any kind of things are there. So the mistake they will also, give you what kind of mistakes will gonna happen. So nowadays it's not a big task, but thing is like emotionally, rather than emotionally break down or something, you just be logical. Okay, be the understand the reality. So if you understand the reality what's going to happen, that you need more attention and focus. So if you understand what's the reality going to happen, so nothing will connect you harder or nothing will emotionally break you. So it's not only about this startup or related to this question I'm answering. For our entire life, it's the same thing will happen. Don't be emotional, be logic, and emotional part is apart, but just be aware this is emotional. And accept the logical side. That's all.
Thanks for the insights, sir. My next question. One thing about the, if you could one thing about the way business schools, what would it be?
So I didn't got you.
What is the one thing business schools should do better to prepare entrepreneurs?
I think reality check is important, I feel. So whatever internships you guys are doing, they can increase the timing of those internships. Because I think 2 महीने की internship कुछ पता नहीं चलता. Because I think 2 months की होती है अभी शायद, है ना, every year. So 2 महीने में 5 दिन तो वहाँ सेटल होने में, 5 दिन वहाँ से आने में, तो काफी टाइम निकल जाता है. I think वो real world experience होना जरूरी है. I think that can be increased, or the sessions are like I've heard from sir only, नहीं not from sir, कल यहाँ के टीन आई थिंक बैठे थे, उन्होंने बताया था कि हार्वर्ड में they call they call failures basically. The best part is anyone who is starting. Initially जब मैंने भी शुरू किया, so I used to connect on LinkedIn with the founders जिनका business बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा नहीं चल रहा है. So I used to meet some people and I was like, sir, मुझे क्या गलती नहीं करनी चाहिए? Because क्या करना चाहिए वो थोड़ा बहुत मुझे पता है और थोड़ा बहुत मुझे बाकी लोग बता रहे हैं. But क्या ऐसी चीज़ है जो मैं ना करूँ जिससे मेरा लॉस कम हो, टाइम का लॉस कम हो, पैसे का लॉस कम हो. So I think that is something which will be helpful for the MBA.
I think while there's a lot of learning which is happening inside the classrooms, I think outclass learning is something which can be increased more in business schools, which will be a lot of experiential learning rather than classroom learning. I think that's something which is very, very important while you build your own venture or you take a professional career in the future. A small anecdote around that can be, let's say you can build your own startup across your 2-year journey, or let's say you have your undergrad program as well, which can be a 3-year journey. While you build that, you understand the nuances of building a startup. वो कहते हैं ना कि अगर आपको जानना है, when you get inside a swimming pool, you only understand that the water is cold or hot while you get inside the pool. Staying outside would not help you understand what the temperature is, and that's why get into it, and that's when you'll understand a lot of pieces around it. Thank you.
I think a lot of it is already happening. For example, if you look at this, your team, right? Without any involvement of faculty, you've single-handedly done this. There's nothing but entrepreneurship, right? It's just that you're not getting paid for that. But I mean, what is entrepreneurship? You have a problem, you have a task in front of you, you have to complete it irrespective of all the challenges, right? That is basically what entrepreneurship is. So I think if institutes like IIMs or for that matter any institute, if they start encouraging students to work on live projects so that they are prepared, because what happens is so long you're working in an institute, you're working in a school, college or whatever, you always have the hand of your parents, your teachers, your principal, they'll protect you. The moment you step out in the practical world, you have to fend for yourself, right? So learning to fend for yourself in the practical world outside, it's very, very important. So I think projects like conducting events like this, working on live problem-solving projects is very, very important. I think that's meant. A lot of it is already spoken.
Yes, indeed. So your take on this?
Add on to all these points, I can say, now in Western nations, people are starting entrepreneurship in their 10th standard. Am I right? So, we should adapt that kind of culture in our business school. Not only in business school, from the school culture itself, from our 10th standard, 12th standard, we should be supporting the entrepreneur development kind of activities. So in our college also, we started our company in college when we were studying. Okay, so after that, due to some issues, we drop out, and after that, 2 years after pass out, we start our company again. So the thing is, like, we can adapt that kind of culture. Like, the mentality should change in our every perspective. Like, the framework should change to the realistic, the practical sessions. So I can say, like, more than the curricular activities, do some extracurricular things in every schools, business schools in India, not only IIM, all business schools, and teach them how to connect with the government bodies. And if you are starting a company in our nation, India, there are a lot of regulations. The reality is far beyond what you are learning in books. Okay, so from the theoretical part, you are, getting, into your mind, like you are just for writing the exams, you are just getting the theoretical parts. But the reality is far beyond that. Like that, what we understand. So the practical part should be more into your every curriculum. So from the first year onwards, it should be practical more than sitting inside a classroom. That's what I want to ask.
Thank you so much, sir. That was really helpful. Now, we'd love to hear from you, the audience. So if you have any questions, please raise your hands. Take a few.
afternoon panel. I believe the discussion was very fruitful, but in this context, I wish to bring in the social media angle. So in the present situation, entrepreneurship, startup, the way it is being quoted on social media, it is equally frightening and incentivizing, right? So in this context, I wish to ask you that if someone is wishing to pursue entrepreneurship or startup in this context, so what should be the exact roadmap? I believe the discussion has been in this trajectory so far, but against the social media context, so how should we proceed? That's the question. Thank you.
So, what do you mean by social media? Exactly, समझ में नहीं आया question. Please.
Say for instance, influencer आता है, बोलता है कि friends remember Friday, but at the same time बोलता है grind 25 hours a week, 25 hours a day, 9 days a week and so on. So it is equally frightening and incentivizing at the same time. So how do we?
तो वो दूसरा वाला ही है दोस्त. So the roadmap is very simple of doing a startup is you have to work real hard. This is true. It's not a rosy picture in a startup, and it depends also. What kind of a startup it is. It's not like every startup is like that only. If you're building a tool, if you're building a tech product, can be a little थोड़ा सा easy हो सकता है. But हाँ, if you're building something, if you're building a restaurant, so the struggle will be different. Same taste कैसे लेकर आओगे every time you're making a dish. So for every different startup, the struggle is different. If you're building a offline FMCG brand, so I don't think so आप घर जा भी पाओगे. मतलब आपको दिन भर मार्केट में ही रहना है. You have to face a lot of things. So it depends on the startup to startup. बहुत सारे startups like today it came ना that guy जो help कर रहा है Indian Army को. So what he said कि 3 महीने से वो घर नहीं गया है. वो कहीं इधर कभी उधर. तो I think there is no specific roadmap, to be very honest. For every person, it's different. For every business, it's different. There is no set lines. There is no set roadmap. और जो भी वो roadmap मतलब कुछ बता रहे हैं या बेच रहे हैं, I think it's very different for everyone.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
I think. For a moment, forget the world. Forget social media. They have no role to play in your life. If you want to become an entrepreneur, ask yourself why do you want to become an entrepreneur? So clarity of thought is the most important thing. Ask yourself why do you want to become an entrepreneur? What is that problem you're trying to solve? How is your solution? Is it unique? Okay. There are a lot of cases where people say, "Yaar job nahi mili, so I'll become a startup founder." That is the wrong approach. Becoming a startup founder just because you don't get a job is not the right way. Okay, founder is something else. So most important thing, I think the key takeaway here is ask yourself, you have clarity of thought, why. If you're able to answer that why, forget the world. The world doesn't care, right? That's it.
Next question.
Hello. So many of the Indian AI startups right now are just trappers. So they have a low entry barrier. So not only they can be taken over by their competitors, but also the big tech that own the LLMs. So what's your take on that? And what advice you would give to those startups, like how they can safeguard themselves?
See, if you look at typical tech startups, right? Initially, I'll talk about my experience. I was one of the early employees at Unicommerce. Unicommerce is one platform which integrates with multiple marketplaces plus your own e-commerce website and gets data at one place pertaining to, let's say, order management, inventory management, catalog and logistics management. What used to happen initially was any domain needs maturity, right? Initially, when we were trying to integrate with Amazon or, let's say, a couple of other marketplaces, we were not getting that, let's say, help from the respective marketplaces with respect to API integration. And unfortunately, during the initial phase, we had to scrape data from those respective platforms. So every domain would mature over a period of time, looking at how their respective domain is growing. Let's say, how good is the CAGR year on year. So you might start from, let's say, scraping a particular website, getting details on your platform, but then if that domain is maturing in a really big way, you would eventually move to API integration. So you have to understand how big is the
domain? How big is the market size? And how is it maturing? How many entrants are there? Is this a problem for a very large number of players? Or is this a problem which, let's say, only few players are solving? So maturity is one piece which will happen over a period of time.
We'll take one more.
Good afternoon, panel. Thank you for such an insightful session, first of all. As you guys were discussing that Tier 2, Tier 3 cities have potential, but they don't really know where to start. That's from where my question derives. Say someone knows that he wants to get into his business, want to do his startup, but don't have a product or a service as of now. So what can be the starting point for a product?
I can go first and then you guys can follow. I think product, whether you want to build a SaaS company or a service company, I think there's something which is very secondary. I think what's primarily important is what is the problem you're trying to solve. I think Sir pretty much referred to that while he was talking about what problem the founder looks at. So if you understood that this is something which you are obsessed about, and it can be, let's say, protein or nutrition for him, right? It can be, let's say, working with universities for incubators and accelerators, or it can be, let's say, building a payments stack, not only for India, but let's say building a global payment stack. So once you're obsessed and you're very clear that, hey, this is something which I have interest in, this is the problem or this is the gap which is very visible in the market, and this as a problem can be solved for a very large set of customers, I think then that's when you go to what model would it be? Would it be a service-based model? Would it be a SaaS company? Would it be something else? Would it be an amalgamation of both? I think that comes in much later. I think primarily those fundamental pieces have to be cleared out for you to figure out what your monetization model would be.
Thank you, sir. So, before we wrap up, a huge thanks to our guests for being so open and approachable throughout the session. So, your insights gave all of us a clearer and more grounded understanding of what entrepreneurship is and how to build something from the scratch. So, and thank you to our audience as well. Your energy and your questions made this so much more engaging. And thank you, everyone.
So thank you, Kirtana and Shedar, for this open round of questions. I'm sure I missed out on some questions you covered up for me. Thank you.
We extend a sincere thanks to the esteemed guests for sharing their valuable insights and experiences during this discussion. We also express our gratitude to the COE coordinators for steering such an amazing dialogue and facilitating such an engaging session. Finally, a heartfelt thank you to the audience for your active participation and thoughtful contributions. We now kindly request everyone to return to their seats. I would now like to invite Siddhi for the concluding remarks.
Good afternoon, respected dignitaries, esteemed faculty, and my fellow students. I, Siddhi Manglani, with immense gratitude, once again extend a warm thank you to each one of you for being a part of eSummit 6.0. Today's discussion has truly captured the spirit of entrepreneurship, the courage to begin, the discipline to build, and the resilience to grow. Our esteemed speakers have shared lessons that reflect the real, on-ground journey of turning ideas into meaning and scalable ventures. Mr. Manish Verma, our moderator, beautifully tied the entire conversation. He highlighted India's rise as the third largest startup ecosystem with 1.6 lakh startups and lakhs of jobs created. He reminded us that buzzwords and funding are secondary. What truly matters is building strong teams with right values. He explained how founders today must balance compliance and innovation, respond to changing investor expectations, and focus on profitability and solid unit economics. Thank you, sir, for your structured insights and guidance. Mr. Manpreet Singh reminded us how startup landscape has shifted from aggressive growth to thoughtful profitability. He stressed the importance of strong fundamentals, clarity, compliance from day zero, and a realistic view of path ahead, especially in deep tech. Through his own journey from an MBA to leadership, he emphasized hunger, persistence, and adaptability, and highlighted how Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are becoming powerful centers of opportunity. Thank you, sir, for your clarity and inspiration. Mr. Raj Vikram Gupta brought a grounded perspective on modern entrepreneurship. He spoke about the growing world of AI-driven narratives, but reminded us that real value comes from staying practical, honest, and clear in your thinking. He emphasized building strong teams, setting clear expectations, and developing essential skills like research, intent, and presentability. He highlighted the impact of incubation networks, the rising awareness of entrepreneurship, and the evolving opportunities in smaller cities. Thank you, sir, for your honest and insightful reflections. Mr. Nikhil NP shared how the post-COVID world has reshaped markets and accelerated acceptance of technology. He spoke about the shift in founder thinking, where value creation, patience, and leadership maturity matter more than ever. He highlighted how investor questions now center around alignment with vision, confidence in the product, and profitability rather than just growing projections. His message was clear: don't run behind the money, understand the market well, and build with discipline. Thank you, sir, for your balanced and forward-looking perspective. During the open dialogue, our speakers encourage students to be practical and logical in their decision-making, rather than emotional. They devised asking the right questions before starting a venture and understanding what mistakes to avoid. They highlight that experiential learning during MBA through projects and hands-on work is far more powerful than classroom theory. Every founder's struggle is different, every roadmap is unique, and the biggest strength a student can develop is clarity of why before beginning the startup journey. On behalf of the IIM Amritsar community, I extend deepest appreciation to all our distinguished speakers for taking time to be with us today. Your words have made this edition of eSummit meaningful platform for learning, reflection, and inspiration. Thank you everyone for being a part of this summit. Let's continue to stay curious, embrace challenges, and contribute to the ever-growing spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship.
We now move to a very special moment. I invite Hanishi Parikh and Siddhi Manglani to the stage to announce the winners of the Startup Expo. Let's give them a warm round of applause, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, innovators and dreamers, what an incredible day it has been today at eSummit 6.0. The energy, the ideas, the passion, absolutely electric.
Absolutely, Hanishi. Our Startup Expo this year has truly raised the bar. Every team brought something unique, something bold, and I'm sure the judges had a tough time deciding the winners.
And it's now time for the moment you've all been waiting for. It's now time to announce the results of the Startup Expo.
Can we hear a few guesses before we announce the winners?
Are you ready for the results? Are you ready for the results?
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Pankaj Gupta, along with our esteemed guests, Mr. Manpreet Singh, Mr. Manish Verma, Mr. Raj Gupta, and Mr. Nikhil NP to kindly come up on the stage and present the prize to the winners.
Guys, whoever wins the first or second award, that is immaterial. But I think kudos to all 10 teams. You guys were very good. You guys were very good. You put in a lot of effort. You done hard work. Your thought was there. Okay. So I think congratulations to each one of you who presented. It's not easy to come to walk up to the stage and make a presentation. Yes, there's a first winner, there's a second winner, but I think all of you put a lot of effort. So I think big round of applause for all the 10 participating teams.
So let's begin with the ones who almost smashed the crown. The runners-up who had everyone talking with their execution and idea. Any guesses?
A little louder, guys, a little louder.
So the runners-up award of the Startup Expo eSummit 6.0 goes to Ecosystem Solutions.
And now, the top spot, the team that stood out with originality, impact, and a pitch that absolutely wowed the judges.
Shall we hear a few guesses? You might have just guessed it right. So the winners of the Startup Expo and eSummit 6.0 is Rieka Technologies.
Congratulations to all the winners and a huge shout out to every startup that participated. You were all phenomenal.
Once again, congratulations to Rieka Technologies and Ecosystem Solutions. Truly well deserved. So that is what eSummit is all about. Ideas, imaginations, and inspirations. Thank you all for being such a lovely audience today. Signing off, Tanisha Parekh and Siddhi Manglani.
and deliver the vote of thanks. Good evening all. On behalf of the Center of Entrepreneurship and the entire organizing team, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speakers for sharing their invaluable experiences, grounded perspectives and candid reflections. Their clarity of thought and depth of insight have enriched Genesis, offering our audience a meaningful understanding of the entrepreneurial path. We remain deeply grateful to Dr. Pankaj Gupta, the faculty anchor of Center of Entrepreneurship, whose guidance, mentorship and unwavering support form the backbone of this summit. Our appreciation also extends to the COE coordinators, whose tireless efforts and dedication were instrumental in organizing and executing this event seamlessly. We also thank all the members of the Center of Entrepreneurship Club for their support and commitment throughout the e-summit. We are grateful to the Student Affairs Chair and Student Affairs Office for their continuous encouragement and support. We also extend our heartfelt thanks to the IT team for ensuring seamless technical execution. And we also like to extend our gratitude to the Media and Public Relations Committee for capturing the spirit of eSummit 6.0 with precision and dedication. We thank the Placements Committee for maintaining the decorum throughout the event. And we would also like to extend our gratitude to 50mm, the Photography Club of IIM Amritsar, for their constant support and presence in capturing the essence of the session. We also acknowledge the enthusiastic participation of the students and express our gratitude to the entire student community of IIM Amritsar for their energy, cooperation and engagement, which have contributed significantly to the success of today's session. As we conclude Genesis and eSummit 6.0, we look forward to returning next year with an even bigger, bolder and more impactful eSummit. One that continues to celebrate, innovate, entrepreneurship and the spirit of IIM Amritsar. Thank you. Now, let's take a moment to relive some of the highlights from today's events through engaging clips curated by Media and Public Relations Committee and 50mm, the Photography Club